another transformative episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the space where stories meet science and where healing meets hustle. I'm your host Avik, and today's conversation it's all about the real alignment, not the post it on your mirror, but the kind where you roll up your sleeves, face your shadows, and also design a life that you actually want to live. So, let me ask you this, dear listeners. Have you ever felt like you were kind of surviving? Just going through the motions while a deeper part of you longed for something more aligned, more vibrant, and more you. So, whether it's a kind of addiction, burnout, or just the disconnection of modern life. So, like so many of us know that feeling, right? So, our guest today knows it intimately. And she's not just survived it, but she's thrived beyond it. So, meet Nisha Patel. So, welcome to the show, Nisha.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Nisha, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Nisha is a licensed professional counselor, sobriety expert, and speaker with 16 plus years of long term sobriety under her belt. So, she is the founder of The Niche, where she empowers individuals to heal, find their purpose, and also create lives that they love. But here's the magic is Nisha blends science and soul like no other. From dialectical behavior therapy and hypnotherapy to brain spotting and Reiki, she brings both the evidence based tools and the spiritual wisdom that help people not just stay sober, but truly thrive. So, born and raised in Georgia to hardworking Indian immigrant parents, her story is one of the resilience, awakening, and choosing alignment again and again. So, dear listeners, if you're ready for a conversation that goes beyond the addiction recovery and dives into the mindfulness purpose and creating the life that you deserve, then this one is for you. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get into this discussion. Welcome to the show again, Nisha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to get into this discussion today.
Amazing. So, Nisha, I know that your story begins with something so many, I mean, so many of one can as relate to, like coping with the life's pressures in the best way you knew at the time. So, could you take us back to that moment when you realized that alcohol wasn't just a coping tool anymore? It was something bigger.
Yeah, for sure. I think,
Mm,
for me, I got sober at the age of 24, which is
mm,
fairly young. Everybody around me always said I was an old soul. And it started out fun, just like most of society. Like you
mm,
use it to hang out, you use it to celebrate when you have to socialize, when we're mourning the loss of something.
mm,
And that's what it was for a really long time, and then it came to a point where I realized I had an unhealthy relationship, with alcohol. It took like a driver's seat to my life.
mm,
I was making choices that didn't feel aligned with myself, um, and I knew that if I was going to live a life to fulfill the purpose I was meant to, that alcohol would not be involved in that.
yeah.
I did not know what that meant, like what life was going to look like, but what I did know was that I needed to make a big change, in order to really sustain an internally happy life.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. So, do you think that addiction often starts as a kind of search for alignment, like trying to fill a space or void or soothe a deeper need?
I think it can start in so many different ways, but even
Mm,
culturally, I think it's something that's fun and it is so prominent in our culture, so prominent, right?
yeah.
Um, and then even if you're like, huh, this doesn't feel right, or I don't want to. your environment is encouraging it. Something is wrong with you if you don't want to, right? Um, and so then I do think people use it to cope with problems, and it's not the alcohol isn't the issue, it's the fact that it's the solution to the problem.
Hmm.
The problem is a lot larger. We're either trying to quiet a thought down, we're trying to calm ourselves down, we're trying to relax, right? We're trying to forget something maybe that's not very that doesn't make you feel good. Or it gives you liquid courage. It helps you socialize with more ease. Uh, so yeah, there are
Hmm.
benefits that it may have provided at one point or it still does, but then also it actually keeps you out of alignment because you're disconnecting from yourself.
Exactly. Very true. Yeah. And I find it powerful that sometimes what starts as an escape is actually really um, I'd say signpost that is pointing us towards what's missing. So what do you say on this?
Yeah, it does. It
Mhm.
you do miss the signpost because you are pretty much disconnected from reality, right? You are
Mm.
disassociating from reality. And when we disassociate from reality, we disconnect. And then we're unable to see things as they are. We're seeing them through a shaded lens.
Mm. True. So also like your sobriety journey spans 16 plus years, which is, I mean, I have to say it's incredible. But beyond just maintaining sobriety, you also thrived. So how did mindfulness become a part of your recovery and alignment process, if you can share?
Yes. So very early on, I was taught to start practicing meditation.
Mm.
I wasn't good at it. I was a very fast bodied person. I thought really quickly. I think very fast. I'm ADHD. I've got lots of energy pent up in my body. So sitting for me was
Mm.
very, very hard. But what I learned early in recovery was when we sit and when we silence ourselves is when we can hear God and the universe speaking to us.
True.
And so it was necessary to learn to start sitting and practicing. So I literally started with like a minute at a time. And it was usually guided meditation to help me stay seated or stay focused. And eventually my practice grew to where now I can sit in dead silence for over 20 minutes and be just fine. But it really was taking small baby steps and realizing you can't just keep talking, at God or the universe or whatever you believe in, but you also have to listen and receive. And that happens in stillness.
Yeah, exactly. And was there a moment when you realized that sobriety alone wasn't enough? You actually needed something deeper like spirituality or mindfulness to truly heal. So, anything like this?
So, I will say I've always had a strong connection with my
Mhm.
spirituality and with God. The foundation had always been there. I think that's one of the reasons I probably did get into sobriety so early, or not super young, because I was that connected with a higher power that I knew that this wasn't for me. And I was able to just go, okay,
Mm.
I need help. How do I get it? Where do I go? And I was guided to talk to my family. Um,
Mm.
but now I will say what it did provide was it helped me redefine my relationship with
Mm.
God because, I took on the definition and relationship that my parents had taught me and that
Mm.
that so sometimes I didn't know the whys or what I was doing it, but I did it 'cause I was told to, and I wasn't as connected with it. And so really it helped me redefine a connection that worked for me.
Mm.
I created my own relationship with God. I talked to God like a friend. My God was non-judgmental and kind and loving and gave grace when you made a mistake. Whereas growing up, a lot of times a lot of us are taught, oh, don't do that or don't do this. They're like, God will be mad at you. That's not
Mhm.
that's not what I believe.
Yeah, exactly. And I have noticed that too as well. I mean, healing is really just about stopping a behavior. It's about reconnecting to yourself in a deeper way. So yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's it. It's not just stopping a behavior, it's also replacing it, right?
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
you replace it with is very important, because you could switch it out for something that's less harmful. You could switch out for something as healthy as exercising, but then that becomes harmful. So really, it's going down to the root of why are you doing this thing and what needs to be resolved within oneself.
Mm. Exactly. And also like you use such a unique blend of tools like DBT, brain spotting, hypnotherapy, Reiki, as I was mentioning. So how do you help people balance the science and at the same time the spiritual in their healing journey?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I feel that every client I have has their own unique needs. And, at certain times, talk therapy can only get so far. And sometimes people need more energy work like Reiki,
Mm,
um, or nonverbal therapy like brain spotting, right? Where they're able to
mm,
process still. Our brains and our body are amazing and they have such a great power to heal on their own if they are in a safe place and given the opportunity. And so really, a lot of times what I found is clients that are unable to put words around what's going on within them or what happened to them, I'll use some of these alternatives to help them, yeah, connect with themselves or even release whatever may be stored inside.
okay, got it. And also like do you find that clients come in more uh open to the woo now, or are people still skeptical until they experience the results?
I get a mix, right? I definitely get a mix. It's funny how the clients that are skeptical, they get to know me and they're like, "Oh my god, you're like," we joke that I'm like magic because
Okay.
so then just the way I'm able to read them or pick up on certain things they're not saying, or even you know like bring awarenesses about themselves that they may not have had. Like, how did you know that? Or what?
Mm,
You know, um, and then I have some that are like, no, this is exactly where I want to start. Or some might be like, if I have a client that gets stuck who may not be into the more,
mm,
uh, wellness side or holistic side, I'll say, hey, like, I know you have this stuck point. Would you be open to trying X, Y, and Z? Here's you can learn more about it. Come back to me if you're interested.
true. Exactly. And you have also talked about alignment a lot. So, what does living a life of alignment really look like for you? Like, how do you help others discover what alignment means for them?
Yeah, so living in alignment really means living in your core values, right? These are the values that are at the core of us that we actually all of our actions come from.
Mm,
And so, what I'll do is I'll have clients do a core values exercise where they list 3 to 5 values of theirs that they don't really change very much. So, for example, good example is freedom. Freedom is one of my core values, right?
okay.
I've
Mhm,
always been a rebel. I've always been outspoken, and obviously in my days when I was younger and having fun, that could have looked very,
mhm,
like disobedient or harmful or unhealthy, right? But today, I'm a successful business owner, mom, wife, family person, and I still a core value of mine is freedom. And for me, it's freedom of
mm,
time, freedom to do what I want when I want, but in healthy ways, right?
yeah.
So that never changed. But when I try to mold myself to what society wants me to do or what somebody else expects of me, I become unaligned. And when I become unaligned, I become more contracted, less free flowing. Um, you just feel disconnected, discontent, maybe even.
Mm, got it. And for someone who's listening right now, feeling stuck or disconnected, so what's the one small step they can take towards alignment today?
I would say go online and Google core values worksheet, and it will give you a list of probably over like 100 to 200 words.
mm,
and I read all those words and then get them down to 10 words that you think are like part of your core value, then go down to 5 and then go down to 3. When you get clarity on that and then write it somewhere you're going to see it all the time. And if not daily, maybe weekly, reflect on, are you living in those?
okay, got it. And like sometimes alignment feels like big abstract concept, but some people love breaking it down into tangible and the daily choices. So what do you
Mhm.
have to say on that?
Yeah, that can be as simple as taking a shopping cart back inside the grocery store.
Yeah.
That could be, as simple as they forgot to charge you for something at the store and you let them know that they
Yeah.
didn't charge you, right?
Mm,
If that's if honesty is one of yours, that's it. Um, if one of them giving back, then you make sure that, you're volunteering your time,
mm,
or your resources to other people. Those are tangible ways.
correct. Mm. Uh, And also, like, let's challenge this for a moment. Like, there are people who say, like, you just have to be disciplined, mindfulness, alignment, healing, and that's all extra fluff. So, how do you respond to this kind of pushback?
Um, so you're saying that we just have to be disciplined and everything else is fluff?
No, no, I'm saying like some people believe. I mean,
Yeah.
for those people.
That believe it's fluff and you just have to be disciplined.
Mm,
I agree. I think actually being mindful, living in alignment does take discipline. It takes consistency. So to the people that are like, well, you just need discipline and consistency, well, absolutely. But you need it in the right area. That's like if you were eating spaghetti and you had a spoon, no matter how
mm,
consistent and disciplined you were at using your spoon, you
mm,
still need a fork,
yeah.
right? And so you can be disciplined all you want, but if you're disciplined in the wrong direction, you won't get
Mm,
where you want to go.
exactly. Yeah. Amazing. And also, like, this might sound contradictory, but it's
Mm.
actually not. Um, like, there ever a danger of getting too caught up in self improvement. So, always seeking healing without taking action in life. So, is there something you want to talk about?
Absolutely. I think that it can also become like a chase, right? Always trying to get better, always trying to get better, always trying to get better. And you miss out on actually just enjoying yourself as you are. Um, being in the moment of like all the healing that you've done. There is a point where there's enough, right? You
Mm,
are happy and you are whole and you have created this life you love.
yeah.
Now, it takes work to keep it, but it doesn't mean you need to go, you know, uncovering things that don't exist.
Hmm. Okay. So, fine,
Right.
definitely. And yeah, yeah, you're saying something, please.
Yeah, I would say because we are, you know, good and whole just as we are. It's not about that, right? Like it's
Mm,
like in DBT we call it dialectical, like being able to accept yourself and love yourself as you are today and realizing
mm,
maybe there's something to change. It's not when I change this or when I get healed or when I then I will love myself. It's loving yourself as you are now and realizing, hey, there's some things that need to be worked on.
mm. True. Exactly true. So, wow, lovely. I mean, any advice you'd like to share with the listeners who are listening today?
Um, all I'd say is it's not one size fits all. What
Mm,
works for somebody else may not work for you. And just remember that. Um,
yeah.
right. And if you're curious about a certain type of therapy or
Mm,
treatment, I would people get curious and go try it.
mm,
Just make sure it's somebody that's safe and that you feel comfortable with. Um, because yes, as much as it's great to do this self-awareness work and this mental wellness work, the double-edged sword is you're also going to learn things you don't like about yourself
yeah.
or those people around you, right? And as you heal and grow, it's, you know, things that you might have once liked or put up with, you may not anymore.
Exactly. Very true. Wow. What an honest and uplifting and grounded conversation, Nisha. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Lovely, lovely. And for everyone who is listening, or maybe you will be listening, whether you are navigating the addiction, or maybe feeling disconnected, or simply craving a life that feels more aligned, I hope that today's episode reminded you that healing is possible and it's not about being the perfect, but it's all about coming home to yourself again and again. So, if you want to dive deeper into Nisha's work, her coaching, or hear more about of her wisdom and everything all in detail, so I'll put all the links into the show notes for easy reference. And so, Nisha, like if someone wants to connect with you, which medium will be the best or the fastest to connect with you?
Yeah, you can email me at nisha@theniche.com, or you can find me on Instagram. It's Nisha Patel Coaching, and send me a message. And my team will usually respond within 48 hours or so.
Amazing, amazing, dear listeners. So I'll put all these links into the show notes. And if this episode has resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that healing doesn't have to be lonely and alignment isn't just a dream, it's a path. So until next time, keep breathing, keep being curious, and remember that your life can feel as good as it looks. So this is your host Ravik signing off from Healthy Mind Healthy Life. Stay aligned, stay kind, and stay connected. Thank you so much.